Hello and welcome back. Our second edition of The Process, which is a discussion and dialogue with Coach Jeremy Fouts, all things nutrition, all things related to the process of being a young athlete that is preparing to play not only high school athletics, but possibly even beyond. Great having you back again today, Jeremy. Really excited about talking about the process.
Absolutely, Walter. It's an honor and privilege to be here, man. We got good feedback the first episode, and I think the audience is looking for just a little bit more education, so that's exciting.
You know, I think what caught me by surprise when we start talking and people are reacting, the first thing that they want to begin to talk about is, okay, well, my athlete's in the 8th grade, or he's about to go into his freshman year in high school next year, or he's in his freshman year. You know, are we too late? Is this the right time? So I thought maybe we would go, non-sport specific and just talk about, a high school athlete. So what generally is the right age? And when we're getting started with this, let's talk a little bit about that freshman athlete that might be 14. So let's get started with that. How do you approach parents and how do you get student athletes to understand, okay, not much to buy into here. All it takes is effort and execution.
Yeah, well, when the kid is 11 or 12, and it's definitely something that you need to definitely start them sitting down at their plate, at their meal, and saying, how much protein's here, how much carbs, how much fats, start educating them a little bit on what they need to fuel their body. But when it comes to 8th, 9th grade, Walter, there is nothing that's going to make a difference in their athletic career better than understanding how to follow a meal plan. And I'm telling you, I could give you stories after stories, and you saw it too. I think we're going to have a guest on here in a few minutes to testify to that. But freshman year, it's go time. I mean, it's one of those things that if you want to be able to have a chance to play varsity ball, it is go time. And a 145-pound kid is not going to make the roster to playing against sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
So let's talk about that a little bit. We'll wipe out the slate. We're just not talking about any sport, all sports. And we start to now when you're in high school, there's not this age step, 14, 15, 16. It's, you're playing against 17, 18, in some cases, 19-year-olds. So from a physicality perspective, one of the things that can become a separator is being ready when your feet get into high school and prepared. So let's talk about that average high school freshman. They're entering their freshman year. Let's just say common height, 5'11", 145. How are they going to get started with regard to their process in preparation to become a varsity athlete?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would do, Walter, is figure out what their BMR is. We talked about that on the last episode. Your BMR is called your basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories your body is burning at rest. So let me do some calculations. You said 14, 5'11"?
Yes, sir.
And 145. I always use the St. Mifflin, St. Jour equation. It's the most accurate for youth sports. So that athlete BMR is 1,720. That's how many calories they're burning at rest. Then we got to figure in their TDEE. And their TDEE is the total daily energy expenditure. If this athlete is lifting weights 4 or 5 times a week, he's practicing his sport, an hour and a half to 2 hours. He's doing some extra stuff on the weekend. This athlete is burning 2,967 calories a day. Okay. So we're going to round it up to 3,000. And I don't know if these parents remember me saying this, but in the first episode, in order for that athlete to be at a point where he's going to have an opportunity to gain 1 pound a week, he needs to be eating in a 500 calorie surplus. So that's 3,500 calories. Now, again, I don't know if these parents are aware of all the latest sports nutrition science that's out there, Walter, but this is not only, again, to gain weight. This is to have a healthy body. One of the hottest topics right now is called REDS in sports nutrition. And RED stands for relative energy deficiency in sport. When your athlete is in a calorie deficit for too long, I mean, bad things happen from a hormone perspective. Your IGF-1 is not producing. I mean, there's some bad things that happen, but let's just continue. We're going to focus on not just the health, but also gaining weight. So we know this athlete needs to have a 500 calorie surplus, need to be eating 3,500 calories a day. That's the math side of it. Okay. That's just the math. When these athletes call and say, well, I've got a fast metabolism, mom and dad, I've got a picky eater, he just has a fast metabolism. No, the math game is the math game. Your son or your daughter is eating more calories or eating less calories than they're burning in a day. Okay. That's the math equation. Then we move to the science part, which is your macros, your proteins. What does protein do? Protein builds muscle and helps muscles recover. Okay. So we need to get that set right. A 14-year-old athlete, I would start them off on about 1.10 grams per body weight. So if we have a 145-pound athlete times 1.10, then their protein intake a day would need to be 159.5 grams a day. Anytime I'm working with these athletes, again, when they report to me weekly numbers, I will look and see, okay, their body is probably going to respond to protein a little bit better. So we're going to up that. If it was a 15-year-old athlete, I'd start them off on 1.25 grams of protein per day. Okay. But we started him off on 1.10. That's 159.5 grams per day of protein. There's 4 calories in every 1 gram of protein. So if we take that 159.5 and times it by 4, that means that athlete needs 638 calories of that 3,500 calories per day in protein. Okay. Then the next thing I do is I figure out their fats next. Now, I use the formula that goes for age appropriate from 0.4 to 0.6 grams of fat per pound. Anytime I'm working with a 14-year-old, I lean towards that 0.6 because they're still going through puberty. I want to make sure they have enough good fats to produce good hormones. So you take the 145-pound athlete times 0.6, they need 87 grams of fat a day. There's 9 calories in every 1 gram of fat. So we take the 87 grams times 9, that's 783 calories out of the 3,500 that we're going to get from fats. So if we add the 783 calories to the 638 calories we know we need from protein, that gives us a total of 1,421 calories. If we subtract that by the 3,500 calories that we know we need to gain 1 pound a week, that means we need an extra 2,079 calories. Well, the only macro that we're missing is our carbs.
Right.
And carbs is what gives these athletes the fuel. So we take the 2,079 divided by 4 because there's 4 calories in every 1 gram of carb. That means that we need 519 grams of carbs. So we're going to start that athlete on 3,500 calorie, 159.5 grams of protein a day, 519 grams of carbs a day, 87 grams of fats a day. And Walter, I'm telling you, you have to get the carbs in before the lifts and after the lifts. And when I teach these athletes, I say, look, this is a good vicious cycle that happens. The more weights you move, the hungrier you are afterwards. The more food you eat later in the day, the more it prepares you for the next morning lifts. You lift more weights, then you eat more food, then you lift more weights, then you eat more food. Then it creates this awesome cycle where you're basically, it's like someone comes in and flips a switch on in your system, and your confidence, your strength, everything is just going through the roof.
A lot of what's missing really is just this type of information. But when you do get those parents that say, you know, Jeremy, my son's a picky eater, my daughter's a picky eater, or he gets out of bed at 7:15, he's got to be on the bus at 7:30. It does simply take a plan. So just talk about, you know, we touched on it a little bit in episode 1, but let's just give someone, you're a 14-year-old or you're working with Jeremy. What are you telling them for breakfast? Like, is there a certain amount of calories you're hoping that they get in before, say, 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. every day?
Yeah. So number one, Walter, the old timers, I don't know if you remember these old timers, but they said what? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Always.
And the reason why is because it puts fuel in your system for the day, number one. But number two, when you're having to eat a 3,500 calorie diet, you can't start at noon.
Right.
You can't start at noon. And one of my biggest problems with athletes is they say, oh, just my son don't. These parents, man, they make excuses for their kids. My son just don't like breakfast. My daughter just don't. You have to train the stomach to like breakfast. It's just like any other muscle. I mean, I didn't like bench press when I was 8th grade either, but I had to learn it.
Right.
So I will work with these athletes, and then they make excuses. Say, well, they have morning lifts at 6 o'clock. Well, my kids do too. So what do? So if I have an athlete that don't like breakfast, I say, okay, let's start off with doing something simple right before their lift. Let's give them a 3 carbs to every 1 ratio of protein, 3-to-1 ratio, to make sure they have enough fuel to push the weights. So let's start with like overnight oats of training the stomach. Let's take with some oats at night before they go to bed with a little bit of milk, a little bit of protein powder. My boys like cutting up apples and putting apples in there and putting a little cinnamon, tastes like a little bit of granola, tastes like an apple pie. They mix it up a little real good. They grab it out of the fridge the next morning. They're eating them about 400 calories, about 25, 30 grams of protein, about 80 grams of carbs, about 10 grams of fats, and they are out the door and they are pushing weights. So yes, it doesn't matter. And then what happens is I've got this athlete I'm working with in California, a young athlete. That was the first thing. Mom said, he won't eat breakfast. I said, we're going to start him off overnight oats. She texted me day 6 and said, he just got through eating his overnight oats and he's still hungry. Can he have more? And I'm like, yes.
Heck yeah.
The body has understood that he has given food and early in the morning. His body says, I need this. So they start waking up hungry because they're training the stomach. And that's how the process works.
Well, I want to let everyone know, after our break here, we're going to bring in an athlete that I've been fortunate enough to be working with since the age of 12. And I would venture to say that Coach Fouts is going to find this young man to be the epitome of understanding the process, but not only that, executing his process. We'll be right back on the
All proteins are not the same. I encourage you to choose a grass-fed whey protein. The cattle have a cleaner diet, grazing on natural grass, which is going to mean that it's going to have higher branched chain amino acids, also your omegas and your CLAs. I'm telling you, it matters from a recovery standpoint. Choose the best protein and you're going to see the best gains and the best recovery. I'm telling you, athletes, make a wise choice because it matters what you put.
Welcome back, and really excited. As parents, you can listen to Coach Fouts and myself, and we can talk and we can share stories. And oftentimes you hear us using the phrases an athlete or a family that I work with. Well, we're very fortunate today to be joined by a young man that I've been working with since he was 12 years old, Anthony Girgenti from Central Massachusetts. Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And I know you're just getting home from school, so want to get you to explain to parents and athletes that are watching, how old are you today?
I'm 15 years old.
15. And when you and I started, we were what? You were 12, correct?
Yeah.
And you are a sophomore in high school?
Yep.
Okay. So when would you say you began, let's say, an active strength program, but also your nutrition program?
I would say it really started around 13 years old when I started going to Cressy. And I went for a few years, and then now I have a personal trainer that helps me out. And he's been a great help, and he's making like programs and all of that. But like just the whole grind and the process with, the working out and like the foods, it's just been a grind every day. And the food, it's so important to get into your calories like every single day. And, like you said, like it starts in the morning, having your calories and, the breakfast counts. I have tons of calories. I have a protein shake. I have all of that. And I just have to make sure that I'm just getting into the calories before I'm working out and like all the proteins. So it's definitely been a process and like, working through different things. Like, I've had to like learn from, what foods I can get to like gain more weight. Because, I would be in that gap where I'm like, all right, why am I not getting weight? So I just had to figure out like what foods actually did that and like, how many calories I had to get in a day. So like now I kind of figured it out and like I'm at my weight that I wanted to be at by spring, but now I'm already there right now. So awesome.
Now, one of the topics that Coach Fouts and I, were discussing earlier before you joined us was height. We get so caught up with talking about caloric intake and weight, but nutrition does play a role with regard to. So how hard was it, or how easy was it for you, like when we first started, for you to get into that 4, 5, 6 meals a day routine and process in order to begin to see growth and results?
It was definitely tough, but I mean, I was always like, before that, I was like going in the opposite direction with like, all right, I want to lose weight. Like I want to get a 6-pack and all that. But like I was doing like the wrong thing. So I had to learn like, all right, where I want to be a baseball player, I want to gain weight, and I want to, keep working out and turn that into muscle. So I really used all those calories and the extra food and the meals, and I started eating more and more, and I feel like my stomach grew, and like I was like, all right, I can eat more food, and like I've been stopping like eating at like 9 o'clock at night, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it's like it's just been. I like it now, but it's just been a grind with that, and by the time season starts, I'm gonna have to cut back a little bit because I don't want to keep eating and lose some of my agility and all of that and athleticism. But it's just been a grind. Like the process and working through things has been difficult, but I've definitely learned how to manage my how to eat and the calories.
So Anthony, when you started, about what was your height and weight, and what is it now?
So when I started, it was around like 5'5", 5'6", around that area, and now it's 5'9", 5'10".
And how about weight?
I was 155, 160, around there.
And what do you weigh now?
190.
190.
Yep.
Anthony, that's amazing progress, man.
Yeah.
I mean, did you understand? That's what I tell athletes over and over. 15 extra pounds adds 5 to 7 mile per hour more to your bat speed, which means that ball can fly 25 feet further. So I cannot wait to watch you this spring. As far as the morning breakfast, was that a challenge with you before? And how did you overcome that of eating that breakfast every morning?
Well, honestly, I've been doing creatine and protein. I just started that last year. But like now, like I really understand like, the positives I can get out of that. And now that I've been taking it and like every morning, I'm just used to it now. So, I mean, I really didn't have that much of a challenge of eating breakfast. It's just now that I've gotten into a routine and consistency, like it's just so much easier for me to manage like, all the protein and creatine that I've been taking. So
Anthony, talk a little bit about what you're noticing as far as, throwing a baseball, hitting a baseball. How does that extra size and strength, are you noticing that like with your gains with regard to lifting weights, hitting a baseball? What kind of changes have you been able to feel now that you're into that 185, 190?
yeah, so the working out has definitely been a lot easier. Like, the heavy weight, I've been lifting heavier and been able to go up on weights a lot easier than before. So, having the extra weight's definitely been a big help in the weight room. And like the batting and all of that, like I feel like my legs are a lot stronger and everything. I'm using my lower half more, and I'm just getting a lot more better swings on the plate too. And obviously now that I hit 190, it's in the off season. Like I'm excited to see, what I can do during the spring. So I'm excited to see that. And, the whole infield thing and my feet, that it's just, honestly, it's been improving everything. Like I just have to keep up my agility and, my quickness and make sure like all of that like stays into, it stays like good, because I don't want, to have the extra weight and then become slower. So that's the one thing I have to just make sure stays good and stays clean until spring. So
Anthony, I've worked with a lot of athletes that have gained weight like what you have done. Congratulations to the hard work you put in. But what has it done for your confidence? I have most of my athletes tell me not only does it make the ball fly further, not only does it make me stronger, but my confidence. What has it done for your personal confidence of being able to accomplish this greatness?
It's definitely been great. I mean, like, I really wanted, like, after Coach B told me, like, all right, I have to gain weight, like, and just hearing stories of, like, his son Tyler, like, gaining weight and, like, eating a lot, like, that's the whole thing. Like, it's just changed my whole attitude and, like, my momentum. Like, I really started to feel the difference, and, like, just looking around, like, the whole team and my team, like, I'm starting to look like, juniors and seniors, which is cool. And I don't know, it's just been great. My confidence has definitely been higher.
One of the things, Anthony, I would love for you to share, not only with Coach Fouts, but with parents that are listening and watching, is when you were a freshman, you're around 18, 19-year-olds. When you were playing Legion this past year, you were literally with college freshmen.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about, you look the part and you're learning what it looks like, further on down the road as you're beginning to enter your upperclassmen years in high school. Talk a little bit about how that made you kind of, okay, I have some incentive. I see what it looks like. Now I have to get to that goal.
Yeah, I really, appreciate the coaches playing me as a freshman. Like, I didn't have to, but he saw the potential and he played me, and I appreciate that. And but yeah, it was awesome playing with all the older kids and, like, learning from them. I was only a freshman, like, obviously I didn't know, like, everything, but, like, it's just being in the moments and, like, being around those older kids was awesome. So I mean, I definitely, like, obviously, like, in the season, I was weighing probably like 180. So I gained like 10 pounds, or 8 to 10 pounds. So, like, it was I definitely saw, like, I was like, all right, cool. I'm almost there. I'm almost, like, at the same weight, and I look the same as, like, these 18, 19-year-olds. So I was like, all right, that gave me the confidence. Like, all right, I can do this, as a freshman. So now going into my sophomore year, I have more confidence. Like, all right, I already did this my freshman year. I can do this my sophomore year. So it just gives me more confidence.
That's awesome.
One of the things that I want to let parents know is, Coach Fouts and I were talking in a previous episode about when to start, what age, supplementation and things like that. I want to let everybody know that, dealing with not only Anthony, but his parents, Mike and Shannon, we would have lengthy discussions about a runway of time, in that beginning at 12 and 13, you're not going to start with, getting under a lot of weight, but you're going to start, maybe it's with body weights, and you're kind of ramping yourself up and learning the progression and learning to feel your body and learning how to move weight. And so I want parents to understand this is and I love this term, brick by brick, day by day. You can't look at this as increments of, okay, what's it going to look like next year? It's always about tomorrow. Be where your feet are today, build today, and everything will increase over time. Coach Fouts, if you can just kind of share with families, the takeaway here from Anthony's story is that it can be done, right? 190 as a sophomore, can be done.
And it's not only can be done, Walter, but start now. Don't wait. Don't be that phone call to you or me your senior year and crying a story of why my son cannot get recruited because he's 165 pounds. And then, you know what they tell us next, Walter, what their batting average was, how many stolen bases they had. They tell us how fast they are, how good of hands they have at shortstop and second base. My biggest thing is, guys, there's some urgency behind this. It's the same hard whether you start like 12 or 13 like Anthony, or if you wait till your senior year. And I said this in the last episode, but receive the message now and get to work. You have changed this young man's life. Anthony is going to go into a sophomore year at 190 pounds. Physicality is not going to be an issue for this young man. And the confidence, that's why I asked him that question. That's the biggest thing that I see, Walter. The confidence starts believing that these athletes, they believe they can. And baseball's 90% what? Mental,
right?
So he knows now that there is nothing that he can't accomplish when he steps up to that plate.
You know,
And he knows that when he steps onto that field, he has earned the right to be there because he has done the work at home. He has took care of business at home. So that my biggest message to parents is don't make excuses for your kid not liking breakfast. Don't make excuses of them being a picky eater. Don't make excuses of, well, they got time. They're just 12 or 13. Take some urgency behind this. Go be an Anthony story. I've got hundreds and thousands of Anthony stories. I know from experience. You know from experience. You deal with this on a daily basis working with parents and athletes. Be the example. Start now with some urgency.
Well, Anthony, I want to say thank you, Captain. I mean, you are truly the example that others should follow, not just with regard to strength and conditioning. On a future episode, we'll bring Anthony in and we'll be talking about skill set development. It's a daily routine. It's not extracurricular. It's not a drag. It's not boring. It's simply implementing and prioritizing your routine over anything and everyone else. But Anthony, I want to say thank you for taking the time to join us today on the process. Really excited about your future. You have a bright future, but you've put the work in so you can get the results out. But thank you, Captain, for taking the time.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Congratulations, Anthony. Good work, buddy.
Thank you.
Now we're going to have our next episode on the process, and we are going to take a few minutes in the next episode to really do a deeper dive into protein and the reasons why it is so important for your student athlete, not just to whip a shake down, but the steak, the chicken, the turkey, all those things. And that's going to be on our next episode with Coach Fouts. And I'm looking forward to that, Jeremy.
Absolutely, Walter. I mean, you heard me say many a times, a protein shake has its time and place because it's faster digestible. But these athletes have got to know their good protein sources. Red meat is so critical for young athletes. Good chicken, good fish, all of your proteins are very important. Your yogurts, is extremely important. So if you don't have the protein, you're not going to build muscle, and muscles are not going to recover.
So leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you think of our new podcast, The Process. Share it with families and friends that you know that not only have young athletes, but, older athletes, even parents. You can gain something from the process. Looking forward to talking to you next time, Jeremy.